there may not be another person, living or dead, walking around who knows more about the criminal justice system from the inside and actually every facet of it than my next guest, former police commissioner of the NYPD, Bernard Kerik. Commissioner, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's been quite upsetting for lifelong New Yorkers like myself to watch the city be destroyed around us, but it's even more upsetting to see the actions of the mayor that seem to be encouraging this. What can you say about this movement to defund the police?
Well, listen, you have to realize that the mayor of New York City is a radical left-wing politician. He supports these Marxist radical groups. Those groups now have basically begun or attempted to begin a revolution, so to speak, where they want to destabilize the U.S. government, and they're doing it through these riots in the aftermath of what happened in Minneapolis. That being said, defunding the police comes right out of their handbook. If you look at any of the handbooks of the Antifa or Black Lives Matter, or you can go back to the 60s, 70s, or 80s when we had the same issues with the Weather Underground or Black Panther Party, the Black Liberation Army, the FALN, same stuff. Defund the police, eliminate the police. That destabilizes the country. That's what they're looking to do, right out of their handbook. And you have mayors and governors right now that are actually considering it. You've got city council members. The city council in Minneapolis has voted, I think unanimously, to do this. So my answer really is, let's see how you make out in 3 months. You defund the police, you take cops off the streets. Those cops, and especially the communities that's calling for this right now, they're all run by super radical left-wing Democrats. They have the highest crime rates. They have the highest murder rates. It's like New York City in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, early 90s. That's what you have. So you're going to take that, the highest violence, the highest murder, and now you're going to take the cops too. What's that going to do? Those cities are going to implode. The crime rates will skyrocket. Who do you call when you're getting robbed? Who do you call when there's the shots fired? Somebody with a gun, a social worker. I can't really. I have no answer for what they're thinking or how they think they're going to make that better. That's going to make anything better. The reality is, it's not.
Well, Commissioner, you've just given us the answer. You're bringing up these radical groups from the 60s is exactly where I wanted to go with this conversation, because so many of the people who think they're peacefully protesting, they don't realize that they're supporting a movement that's ideologically aligned with the Black Liberation Army and the Weather Underground. So many people don't even know that Joanne Chesimard, aka Assata Shakur, is the ideological mentor of the three women that have founded Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter DC actually tweeted that defund the police is Black Lives Matter. They want to, as you've said, totally eliminate the police, and not only that, release every violent criminal from jail. Now, I don't know if all of our viewers know that in addition to all of the things you've done in your career, you were the warden, if I'm not mistaken, at Rikers Island. You've experienced riots.
Yeah, I ran Rikers. I was the commissioner and the first deputy for almost 6 years. I've seen riots close up and personal, but it's funny you mentioned Assata Shakur or Joanne Chesimard, who was convicted in 1973 for the murder of a New Jersey state trooper on the New Jersey Turnpike at exit 9. This is a woman that was a ranking member. She was the queen, if you will, of the Black Liberation Army. She's been hiding in Cuba since she escaped from Clinton, New Jersey, many years ago. And at the end of the day, Black Lives Matter and Antifa are following her lead. That's what this is all about: destabilizing the government, anarchy, Marxist regime, a power struggle. When you read their rhetoric, when you read their handbook, the Antifa handbook calls for the defunding of police. And then you have morons in Congress, in the House of Representatives, the United States Senate, echoing some of those thoughts or echoing their rhetoric in a number of different capacities. The left, the Democratic Party as we knew it under, say, an Ed Koch, is no longer the Democratic Party that we know today. Today, the Democratic Party has turned into a radical left-wing revolutionary group that's being controlled by lunatics.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the first time that it's been proposed to cut the budget of the NYPD. They're talking about as much as 1.1 million. I find that offensive. I mean, you said, I believe it was to Judge Janine Pirro, that as many as 600 police officers are anticipating resigning or retiring early. We heard in Buffalo there was a guy who was a possible agitator, definitely walking towards a crowd of riot police moving the opposite direction. Isn't it true, Commissioner, that if a police officer instructs you to back up and you fail to do it, the proper policing procedure is to enforce that order with, at first, a push?
Well, yeah, I think here's the problem we have. And the cops, I think, are afraid to do their job. When I was on the job, there were a number of different laws and ordinances by which you can control these things: disorderly conduct, blocking pedestrian traffic, loud and abusive language. I mean, and I can go on. There were 10 of these charges by which you can control local disorder. I haven't seen one person arrested for any of those, and I've seen cops, thugs, up in the face of cops, poking them in the face, putting their hands on the uniform, grabbing stuff off of the uniform. I can tell you, 15, 18, 20 years ago, that would not have happened. Today, the cops are scared to death to do their job, and there's only one reason for that. They're working for a leftist, radical mayor who is more concerned about the thugs than he is the cops. He villainizes the police. And what has it got in New York City? In the past 2 weeks, you've had major spikes in violent crime and murder, and it's only going to get worse. This mayor has taken New York City 30 years backwards, 40 years backwards, to the days before Giuliani got here. That's what's happened in 5 years.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it's happened in 5 days or 5 weeks. I've lived here for 30 years and I've never seen anything like what's going on right now. Commissioner, what was your response to the chief of the department getting down and kneeling with the protesters? I guess he thought this was a conciliatory kind of diplomatic move, but wasn't it a dangerous thing for him to do?
I can't speak for the chief. I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. I mean,
I can't speak for the chief.
Kowtowing to the whims of an angry mob doesn't seem like the best way to get them to stop being an angry mob, does it? It seems like it encourages behavior.
Here's the problem. The whole knee thing is based on a false narrative anyway. So you're basically giving in to the false narrative of these thugs that are trying to take over the city. I'm not into it. I wouldn't do it. Under no circumstance would I do it. Yeah. Or would I allow any of my men or women to do it either.
Right. And it's not just a sense of pride. It's a sense of conveying who is in charge of the city. And as you've said, I mean, you just give in to the whims of the mob. There are already tweets that I've seen around where Antifa members and supporters and Black Lives Matter supporters are basically saying that, rioting works. Well, look at what we've done. We've got Minneapolis
and that's what they're watching. This is sort of a test run to see what they could do in the future. So the only thing that comes out of this for me, where I'm encouraged The only way I'm encouraged by some of this is the result of the Attorney General and the President's directive that he wants this investigated as terrorism. I know the Attorney General has directed all 56 federal joint terror task forces around the country. I think there's 56 different units around the country to investigate the riots, the Antifa, the Black Lives Matter, to investigate these organizations to determine who's responsible for the extreme violence, the looting, the arson, who's funding them,
Right.
and how they're able to do what they're doing. So hopefully something good will come out of that.
Absolutely. And we've seen all kinds of pre-planted bricks around the place and all that kind of thing. I know your time is very limited. I just wanted to ask briefly, you spoke about false narratives. And of course, everyone is protesting right now based on what we've heard that Derek Chauvin is a racist cop who, for no good reason, murdered George Floyd in the street. It's remarkable to me that there hasn't been a deeper exploration of the previous relationship these two men have. The owner of Nuevo Rodeo, a bar and club where they both worked in security for several years, according to the owner and even George Floyd's family's own attorney. Now, we've got two individuals here with criminal backgrounds. Derek Chauvin, obviously, up on charges for murder, 17 prior complaints or charges. George Floyd has had 5 stints in jail. He's accused of using a counterfeit $20 bill. And both Nuevo Rodeo and the police station, the 3rd precinct, including its evidence room, have burned down shortly after this incident. Why is there not more talk about exploring the possibility between a criminal relationship that these two might have been in, possibly related to counterfeiting? George Floyd has been in pornographic movies. Perhaps they were running a prostitution ring out of the club, selling drugs out of the club. Why isn't there a deeper exploration into a possible motive, a personal motive, perhaps a criminal enterprise they were involved in together?
Well, I think there may be, not there may be, there will be. I just don't think it's something that's going to be talked about because that's being conducted by investigators. Keep in mind, you have a county investigation. You also have a federal follow-up investigation. So there's going to be at least 2, maybe 3 different investigations. The department, I'm sure, will have their own internal inquiry, like from their internal affairs division, that will work in conjunction with the county and the feds. But at the end of the day, I'm sure by the time it's all over, they'll figure all this stuff out. To me, doesn't make any difference. I don't care what they were doing. I don't care where they worked. I don't care what their relationship was, who they knew, what they did. It doesn't make any difference to me. George Floyd was murdered. I watched it myself, as did several other people. It was intentional. It was deliberate. It was in my lifetime, in my career of 35 years in this business, it is probably one of 2 things that I have seen or heard about that I would normally say, I can't believe it. This I couldn't believe because I got to see it myself, and I think it was just outrageous. So my hopes is that he is convicted for what he did and he goes to prison for the rest of his life.
Absolutely. And I agree, of course. It's so far outside the realm of something any sane, normal person would do. The only reason I even bring it up is that if it is 2 criminals killing each other for a motive that has nothing to do with race, it changes the complexion of what's going on in our city streets and everybody killing each other and destroying all the businesses. Forgive me, Commissioner, I've failed to remind our audience that you're the author of the book From Jailer to Jailed. There are a number of interviews that you've done that people can listen to around the internet. I've been listening to them for the past several days. It's an amazing story how you went from growing up in the mean streets of New Jersey to joining the military, becoming a police officer, becoming the police commissioner, the warden of Rikers Island. You were what was the role in Iraq? You were the interim.
I was the Minister of Interior for Iraq.
Minister of Interior. You've had an amazing, intense career. And do you have any plans? Would it be possible that you might return as the Commissioner of Police or even the Mayor of New York City?
No. no plans. No, no, no. I've had I probably had more inquiries than you can imagine, but nope, no plans for a political position. Not interested.
I think I can probably read a lot in that comment after hearing some of the things that you've been through with this ridiculous prosecution, essentially for paying the babysitter in cash. It's an amazing story when you consider what's gone on with people like Paul Manafort and Roger Stone and General Flynn and Jerome Corsi. You've said yourself, and there's that book, 3 Felonies a Day, that when the Department of Justice wants to investigate someone and find something to put them in jail for, it's relatively easily done. So I've been speaking with some Black Lives Matter supporters in the streets of New York, both white and black supporters of the organization. I find that some black supporters of Black Lives Matter are very quick to just judge me based on the color of my skin and presume that I have white privilege. Forgive me if this is racist, Commissioner, but you appear white to me. Can you tell us about the privilege that you grew up with?
Well, that's the odd thing, and I've been able to shut them up pretty substantially when they go down that white privilege avenue. I was born in Newark, New Jersey. I was raised in Paterson. I went to Eastside High School, which became infamous, if you will, in the movie Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman. I was probably one of about 25 white kids in that school when they had about 1,700. I dropped out in the 11th grade. My mother was beaten to death, murdered when I was 9. Don't tell me about white privilege. Everything I got, I worked my ass off for. Everything I've learned, I learned on my own. So that whole white privilege thing, white privilege, to me, is an excuse. It's an excuse for other people to be berated. It's nonsense. This isn't about white privilege. What's going on in the country right now? It's not about white privilege. It's about socialism. It's about communism. It's about people that want this government to basically destabilize. That's what this is all about. And I don't care what anybody says. I've been there. I've lived it. I've watched it in other countries. And I urge your viewers, before I close, learn a little bit about history. Look at what happened in Russia. Look what happened in Cuba. Look at what happened in Venezuela and in other countries that reverted to communism. Learn how they got there. Because all you people sitting around doing nothing, all you people voting for Democrats to take over these cities who have turned into hotbeds of violence and murder and mayhem, these are the same people that's responsible for the demise of the country. And that's what happens when there's an attempted overthrow or a revolution. Just look at history and you'll see history is repeating itself. The only difference is it's coming here. And I would hope that's going to change. And with that, Jason, I got to get going. I thank you for the invitation to be here, and hopefully we'll talk again.
Absolutely, Commissioner Kerik. I really appreciate your time, and I hope to have you back soon. Best of luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. And thanks for watching, everybody. That's Commissioner Bernard Kerik, former commissioner of the NYPD, joining us to share his opinion about the ridiculous notion of defunding the police. I'll be back at 1 p.m. with our regular show with the Bishop Larry Gators. We're going to be digging in some more to some of the details of the George Floyd murder. Don't miss it. Don't forget to purchase the book From Jailer to Jailed, Bernard Kerik's story of his life, and how there's a lot to this story of him being put in jail. And I think he is an inspirational individual who there's a lot more to be learned about. And I also want to remind people that I can't bring you amazing guests like former Commissioner Bernard Kerik without your sponsorship and support. So please visit subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth, or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. You're going to get access to a huge library of sponsor-exclusive content, and you keep this show going. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you later this afternoon.